Investors frequently rely on analyst recommendations when choosing whether to purchase, sell, or hold a stock. The price of a company is frequently impacted by media stories regarding rating changes made by these sell-side or brokerage firm-employed analysts, but are they truly significant? Let's explore what these Wall Street titans have to say about Nvidia before we talk about the dependability of brokerage recommendations and how to take advantage of them. Based on the actual recommendations of 50 brokerage firms to buy, hold, sell, etc., Nvidia now has an average brokerage recommendation, ABR, of 1.18 on a scale of 1 to 5 strong buy to strong sell. An ABR of 1.18 is roughly in the range of buy and strong buy. The stock may rise in the near future due to analysts' increased optimism about the company's profits prospects, as evidenced by their strong agreement to revise EPS estimates upward. The idea behind momentum investing is to follow a stock's recent trend, which might go either way. Investors will effectively be purchasing high in the long context, with the goal of selling even higher. Taking advantage of price trends is crucial for investors using this methodology because once a company sets a route, it is more likely to stay on that path. The idea is that once a stock follows a predetermined course, timely and lucrative trades will result. Although many investors prefer to search for stock momentum, this can be quite difficult to pinpoint. The optimal measurements to concentrate on and the low-quality predictors of future success are hotly debated topics. One of the style scores that assists us with this problem is the momentum style score. We examine Nvidia, a business that presently has an A momentum style score, below. We also discuss two of the primary components of the momentum style score: price change and adjustments to earnings estimates. It's also crucial to remember that style scores complement our stock rating methodology, the rank, which has a remarkable history of outperforming competitors. Right now, Nvidia is ranked number 1, strong buy. According to our analysis, stocks with style scores of A or B and rank number 1, strong buy, and number 2, buy, outperform the market over the next month. Let's talk about some of the elements of Nvidia's momentum style score that demonstrate why this manufacturer of graphics chips for AI and gaming has potential as a strong momentum choice. Examining a stock's short-term price action is an excellent way to gauge its momentum, since it can reveal whether buyers or sellers are currently in control. Comparing a security to its industry is also useful because it can highlight the top businesses in a given sector for investors. Over the last week, Nvidia's stock has increased by 6.34%, while the semiconductor general industry has increased by 15.28%. With a monthly price change of 4.65% that is in line with the industry's 13.61% performance, shares are also looking rather good over a longer period of time. It might also be helpful to take into account longer-term pricing measures, such as performance over the previous 3 months or year. Nvidia's stock has risen 70.04% in the last year and 1.29% during the last quarter. The S&P 500, in contrast, has only moved 31.04% and on 1.82% respectively. Nvidia's average 20-day trading volume should also be taken into consideration by investors. A rising stock with above-average volume is usually bullish, while a decreasing stock with above-average volume is usually bearish. Volume is a valuable metric in many respects, and the 20-day average creates a decent price-to-volume foundation. Over the past 20 days, Nvidia has averaged 161,602,752 shares. 15 earnings projections increased over the last 2 months, while none decreased for the entire year. Nvidia's consensus estimate rose from $7.36 to $8.03 during the previous 60 days as a result of these changes. 7 estimates for the upcoming fiscal year have increased, while none have decreased during the same time frame. Conclusion. It should come as no surprise that Nvidia is a number 1, strong buy stock, with a momentum score of A. Following rumors that Nvidia has been in talks to buy a significant PC manufacturer, shares of Dell Technologies increased 6%, and those of HP increased 5% on Monday. Semi-accurate claims that Nvidia has been in talks for more than a year to buy a big business in a deal that may completely change the PC and server market. According to the story, Nvidia wants to make a purchase that will completely change the business, unlike anything that has happened since the invention of the computer. Although the market response indicates that investors are speculating that either Dell or HP could be possible acquisition prospects, the report did not identify which business Nvidia would be eyeing. Don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your input helps create a more knowledgeable community where we can all learn and grow together in the world of investing. Stay up to date with the latest market trends, insights, and key updates by subscribing to Investing Tutorial. We're here to help you make smarter investment decisions and stay ahead of the curve.
And I have to say, guys, the plethora of notes that are out today, the ones that I've seen anyway, are like 90% skewed positive. So you've got Ed Yardeni sticking with their call that the S&P bottomed on March 30th, 7,700 on the S&P. Mike Wilson, Morgan Stanley, much of the adjustment for geopolitical risk, private credit concerns, and AI disruptions already taken place, already in the market. Mateka over at JP Morgan, markets could show more weakness, but we stick with the view that if one has a longer time horizon, 3, 6, 12 months, one should be using the weakness to buy. In other words, buy the dip, V-shape. RBC, near term, yeah, fragile, foggy bottom, but bottom. So what do you think?
I don't think any of us suggested when the market was trading with that heightened sense of urgency in early March that was going to be a major inflection point. And we thought we were on the beginning of a precipitous decline, something like we saw in 2022. So I agree in the theory and the perspective that everyone has. I think one of the best dynamics that ultimately has happened in the month of March is when you look at positioning. And if you think of the institutional community leans defensive right now. The systematic community, they are basically carrying a neutral bias, which means they have a limited exposure. And then we did hear about the retail community making a little bit of a bearish turn for the very first time. So I think that setup is one of the reasons why you have the resiliency in front of you right now at a very rapid advance above the 200-day moving average. You're sitting there. So the theory and the bias of, yes, we want to be long the markets in place, but I think you still have to rebuild positioning, and that bodes well for further upside in the near term.
Why does the market maintain this resiliency? Because it obviously believes that earnings are more important than oil. At least right now. It doesn't, it's trying to look past the whole situation, Steph, with oil, and it is focused on earnings and the economy, kind of like you have, Ben.
Yeah, I've been buying since March, beginning of March, to be fair, not the bottom for sure. Better be lucky than smart. But I do think, the economy has been so resilient, led by the consumer, and the labor market, to me, has calmed down. We were so worried about the labor market softening, and while it's cooled down from the highs, certainly is solid. There's one job available in this country for one unemployed person. That's pretty good.
Do you believe what I said? Do you agree with that? Is it true? Is that the reason why the market looks like it does? Because it's more focused on earnings and the economy than the war and oil.
And I start with the economy because that's going to impact earnings. So yes, to answer your question short, yes, absolutely. We care more about the economy. Hanging in there, led by 70% of the economy is consumer, so we can't have that fall apart. Sure, there's problems with inflation. I got it. But they have jobs, and wages are growing 4%, and spending is growing 4%, and savings is growing 4%. All that is leading to better than expected earnings, and I expect them to be better than expected. And I think you're going to get kind of conservative guidance. It's the first quarter of the new year. It's always conservative. I think you're going to look for opportunities. I don't own Goldman Sachs, and I know we're going to talk about it, but I'd be buying that stock because that was a very good quarter. But what's the most interesting to me is since March 30th, the S&P 500 is up 7.5%. The Dow Jones is up 6%, and the NASDAQ is up 10%. If you waited, and I have said this many times, if you wait for certainty, you're going to miss some of the easy money to be made. And what I also think is really very interesting, too, is year to date, the Russell 1000 value is up 5%, and the Russell 1000 growth is down 5%. And there has been a massive rotation, almost liquidation in growth, in some parts of growth, especially software. Not all, but some, and that's really hurting a lot of people in the psyche, I think, of a lot of people that own growth.
I think Farmer Jim, in some respects, became Jittery Jim as this whole situation unfolded. I mean, you articulated as much on this program on numerous occasions. It even formulated part of your investing decisions. I'm thinking about
on holdings.
On holdings. Are you in agreement with the Yardeni, Wilson, Mateka, RBC idea? that brighter skies are ahead, and you need to focus on that. If you're always looking up at the sky for rain and it doesn't necessarily come, you're going to miss out on the sunshine.
I feel good, Scott. I do. And that's, you know, appropriate. Bring up the on holdings. You were out Friday. I did add meaningfully to BlackRock. So I'm getting in. Like, if I thought things were worrisome, I wouldn't be making that move. I think we've had great discussions from you, Steph, and you, Joe, about the importance of earnings. I would say something that fundamentally the energy market is in much better shape than you might think. And why am I saying that? Because, yes, while West Texas Intermediate is whatever it is right now, I'm not going to look at the screen, $103 a barrel, Brent is cheaper. And you know it's cheaper than either Brent or West Texas Intermediate? Omani crude, which shot up to $160 a barrel in the heart of the conflict just a few weeks ago. These are the sort of fundamental esoteria that actually matters. And what it's saying is that the flows of oil and energy products through the Strait of Hormuz don't matter as much as they did 2 weeks ago. Now, let's not parse my words too carefully. Of course, they still matter. We're talking about $100 handles. But even if you look at where the most pain has been felt, the most pain has been felt in Dutch natural gas pricing. That's off meaningfully from those highs. And what it's saying is workarounds are being felt. Now, maybe for the same reason. And I'm not just going to continue talking about earnings. You already did that. That was fabulous. But if you look at things that have also perplexed us, worried us, things like high yield spreads, those have come down. You go back to January, and the Bank of America High Yield Index was about 265 basis points over Treasuries. It shot up to 342 in the middle of March. Where is it now? 284. That is a meaningful decline. And what I'm telling you is when you lift the hood and really look at the pieces of the fundamental engine, there are things that are going right in addition to earnings.
I'm going to guess that there are a few people, at least, out there who are listening to a lot of this and saying, man, these people are too complacent. They're in denial about what is actually happening within the Middle East. The risk at this point is that it gets a little worse before it gets better. If you believe the rhetoric and some of the on-the-ground dealings there, a lack of an agreement over the weekend, what's going to happen with this blockade in the Strait, I feel like I know it. I know there are people out there who are channeling that.
Then why is the market so calm?
The market is telling you, I mean, to be up today, and I'm sorry, Joe, for the S&P to be green on the news we got yesterday, I mean, anybody who's an investor or a trader will look at that and tell you up on bad news is a sign. Don't give in.
OK, we got Goldman Sachs reporting this morning. We get more bank earnings later this week. What are you looking for? Because bank earnings are really important for the financial system.
They are. Banks are the insight into the consumer. They're in the insight into the capital markets. So it is integral that their reports meet and exceed. And frankly, the Goldman reaction this morning, I mean, relatively speaking, it's muted. The stock ran up 16% from the low. So I expect the banks to do what the rest of corporate earnings are likely to do, and that's go up. We expect Q1 earnings of 11+% and full year earnings growth of 15%. Whoa. Now, the multiple of the market has come down from 23 to 20. And yet the stock market is flat on the year. So earnings keep on going up in spite of all this noise and all the negative sentiment.
So Iran is the negative noise, the negative sentiment, and it's suppressing the good news that's coming out of corporate profits. Have I got that right?
Precisely right.
Does it mean that we've already seen the low for the market overall?
I believe we have seen the low. What we haven't seen is the end of volatility. Coming to this weekend, did we really think that everyone would be kumbaya? Of course not. Yeah. Stocks got ahead of themselves a bit last week, rallying to the extent that they did. But I think both sides are looking for an elegant off-ramp. They're both going to flex over the course of the next 2 weeks. We believe we'll get that off-ramp. Then we'll be back to business. Some of that business is good business, a la corporate earnings. Some of it's challenging business, a la AI eating the world. So we'll be back to the former conversations we had prior to this incursion. But I think the bias will be, after we get through this, to the upside.
So I've got two things to look for: bank earnings and the price of oil.
That's the two things, oil in particular.
Yeah.
Shot clock is ticking.
I bet that's the first thing you guys on Wall Street do every morning. You wake up, it's a 24-hour market in oil. Where are we at this morning? That's the first thing you do?
The longer it stays at this level, the more it feeds through to inflation, into corporate earnings.
Sure.
So we need to see the end to this.
Do you have an alarm system so that if oil goes to 120 bucks a barrel overnight, you know about it?
Yeah, my wife wakes me up. She
I knew
taps
it.
me on the shoulder.